Hey there. Today we are going to be reading a book from the Old Testament, and it's going to be Judith, chapter 4, verses 1 through 15. Verses 1 through 15 says, When the Israelites who lived in Judea heard of all the Holofernes, the ranking general of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Assyrians, had done to the nations, and how he had looted all their shrines and utterly destroyed them, they were in very great fear of him, and greatly alarmed for Jerusalem and the temple of the Lord their God. Now they had only recently returned from exile, and all the people of Judea were now reunited, and the vessels, the altar, and the temple had been purified from profanation. So they sent the word to the whole region of Samaria, to Kona, Beth-horon, and Balmain, and Jericho, and Chobah, and Esora, and to the valley of Salem. The people there secured all the high hilltops, fortified the villages on them, and since their fields had recently been harvested, stored up provisions in preparation for war. Joachim, who was the high priest in Jerusalem in those days, wrote to the inhabitants of the Bethulia and Bethlehem, which is the opposite of Esdraelon, facing the plain near Dothan, and instructed them to keep firm hold of the mountain passes. Since these offered access to Judea, it would be easy to stop those advancing, as the approach was only wide enough for two at a time. The Israelites cried out to the orders given to them by Joachim and the high priest, the senate of the whole people of Israel, in session in Jerusalem. All the men of Israel cried to God with great fervor and humbled themselves. They, along with their wives and children and domestic animals, every resident alien, hired worker, and purchased slave, girded themselves with sackcloth. And all Israelite men, women, and children who lived in Jerusalem fell prostrate in front of the temple and sprinkled ashes on their heads, spreading out their sackcloth before the Lord. The altar, too, they draped in sackcloth, and with one accord they cried out fervently to the God of Israel not to allow their children to be seized, their wives to be taken captive, the cities of their inheritance to be ruined, or the sanctuary to be profaned and mocked for the nations to gloat over. The Lord heard their cry and saw their distress. The people continued fasting for many days through Judea and before the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty in Jerusalem. Also girded with sackcloth, Joachim the high priest and all the priests in attendance before the Lord, and those who ministered to the Lord offered the daily burnt offering, the votive offerings, and the